Hello, it's Big Cheds, and this is the Trading Encyclopedia Daily Education series on my YouTube at Cheds Trading. You can find me on Twitter at Big Cheds and Bitcoin Live, where I am a founding analyst. For today's lesson, we're going to talk about the idea of the exhaustion gap. We've talked about the common gap, we've talked about the breakaway gap, the breakdown gap, and now we're going to do a video specifically on the exhaustion gap. I'll show you a picture. Here's the breakaway gap, the gap out of a consolidation range, the runaway or common gap or measuring gap in the middle of the run, and then the exhaustion gap. Here's another image. You can see what the exhaustion gap looks like. Here's the continuation, but here's the exhaustion gap. And here is another one as well. And what's the idea behind it? Now, you may think, well, I'm in crypto, we don't deal with gaps. That's fine, but it's good to understand these concepts anyway. And the idea behind the exhaustion gap is that term exhaustion. The trend is exhausted. It's an overextension at the end, right? So we've talked about, we talked about the bump and run before, where you have the accelerating move after a trend, and it's an overextension. And many of these concepts work well together, like very low wicks in a candle below the lower Bollinger Band. It's an overextension. So with the exhaustion gap, what happens is this appears after a long move up or a long move down, a sustained trend, a mature trend, not just the beginning of a trend, but you want to look at a trend that's been going on for quite a while. It's been doing whatever it's been doing, whatever path it's been taking. But let's say we're talking about the exhaustion gap after a bullish trend. This is a pretty strong trend. It's been going for a while. And then imagine the following session, you get this gap up here, okay? And it gapped up, big move, an unusual price move, or you call it a price window, right, in Japanese candlestick theory, but a very large price move. And ideally, the exhaustion gap is coming on heavy volume on this day, on this session. And that's suggesting a battle. That's suggesting a trend reversal, because as we know, the most volume comes at the top and the bottom of a move, or the top and the beginning and the end of a trend. So the price is advancing and it gets overextended. It moves too far, too fast. It's exhausted. It gets out in front of its skis, so to speak, to use a metaphor. So we see here again, the exhaustion gap ends up turning over. Here in this example, it turned over. Normally, we know with windows or gaps, the bottom of the gap should be support, but it didn't happen here. That gave you further confirmation that this trend had rolled over. So unlike a breakaway gap, breaking out of consolidation, unlike a common gap somewhere like this in the middle of the run, after a strong, mature trend on high volume, you get an overextension move forming the exhaustion gap. This is for the Trading Encyclopedia Daily Education series on my YouTube at Cheds Trading. You can find me on Twitter at Big Cheds and Bitcoin Live, where I'm a founding analyst. Thank you, folks. I'll talk to you soon. Big Cheds out.